Art Deco was an eclectic design style that began in Paris, France in the 1920s. It influenced fashion, art, and architecture around the globe. But did you know that Elgin played a significant role in popularizing the Art Deco movement? We'll explain how, as the Elgin Area Historical Society presents Elgin's Art Deco Heritage.
Welcome to our program on Art Deco. I'm Bill Briscoe. You know, Art Deco often brings to mind the great iconic buildings found in New York City, the Chrysler Building and the Empire State Building. But we're going to show you some examples a little bit closer to home. Several nice examples in Chicago, other ones throughout the Fox River Valley, and several right here in Elgin. But it wasn't always just the soaring skyscrapers. Art Deco was used on such modest buildings as the one behind me, originally constructed as the Elgin Precast Concrete Stone Company. Many people associate Art Deco with architecture, but Elgin's Art Deco heritage may be more widely expressed in the manufactured products that came from here. Products from the Elgin National Watch Company, the Illinois Watch Case Company, and its subsidiary, the Elgin American line, which made compacts, lighters, desk sets, and a whole variety of other personal products. So we're going to take you on a little tour in the next few minutes. You'll learn more about Art Deco, and you'll learn about Elgin's great Art Deco heritage. So stay tuned.
Elgin's Art Deco Heritage is a presentation of the Elgin Area Historical Society. Funding for this program is made possible in part by generous donations from O'Connor Leeds Funeral Home. Built in 1867 for Alfred B. Church, this historic home provides a beautiful, meaningful setting for funeral services. Serving the Elgin community since 1938, O'Connor Leeds Funeral Home, when family and price matters. By Woody Buick GMC in Elgin. Woody has a tremendous selection of new Buick and GMC cars, trucks, and SUVs. And Woody's Valet Service Department makes servicing your car simple and convenient. Stop by Woody Buick GMC on Chicago Street in Elgin, or look us up on the web at woodycars.com. By the Professional Building, Elgin's historic landmark in the heart of downtown, offering unique and affordable office space for businesses big and small. For more information, call Frank Halsey at 847-697-7797. The Elgin Heritage Commission, a citizens advisory board that promotes Elgin's historic preservation activity through the protection, maintenance, and preservation of the city's architectural, historic, and cultural resources. To know more, go to cityofelgin.org. And by generous donations from Jim and Sarah Ellen Anderson, and from Terry Gable and Sue Brigham. Chicago is home to many famous Art Deco style buildings, so we asked Keith Bringy from the Chicago Art Deco Society to highlight a few of Chicago's iconic structures.
We're standing in front of the Chicago Motor Club, which is a 1928 masterpiece by Chicago's dominant firm Holabird and Root. It was opened as a private membership group to advocate for roads and wayfinding throughout the United States and to provide hospitality for members. The exterior of the building is a classic Chicago skyscraper. It's covered in Bedford limestone that came from quarries around Bloomington, Indiana. Almost all of the major Art Deco buildings in Chicago feature this material. But in addition, there's metalwork with frozen fountains or frozen waters, which is a very common theme in Art Deco throughout the world, throughout this period. There are pheasants and birds of the air, floral motifs, and a beautiful curved bay along the front. The building is 15 stories high and rather narrow, but presents a beautiful, elegant monumentality. The lobby features a monumental mural by one of the greatest Chicago artists, John Warner Norton, who also was an instructor at the Art Institute of Chicago and taught the other muralists. John Warner Norton's mural at the Chicago Motor Club represents the historic motor routes throughout the United States, some of which are no longer extant. But the wonderful thing about this mural is that it really points out the strategic location of Chicago in terms of transportation. All of the rail routes are converging through Chicago, rivers and waterways, which were much more important ways to transport merchandise and building materials and goods, and the Great Lakes system. It's really one of the greatest pieces of public art in Chicago. It's of the top importance. This is really among Halliburton Root's earliest and most masterful lobbies. They're using over 27 different plasterwork programs with silver gilding, incredible monumental modernist lighting by the Perlman Company. And one thing that I really have to say is the Chicago Art Deco Society is really delighted that new ownership of the building, Ares Capital, is very optimistic about a partnership to redevelop the building, to develop additional space in a lot next door, and to reopen it to the public and to preserving as well the historic character of the building. Behind us is one of Chicagoans' favorite Art Deco buildings. It was originally built for the Carbide and Carbon Corporation by the Burnham brothers, which was the legacy firm to Daniel Burnham. But the Carbide and Carbon building really stands out because of its polychrome terracotta and its gold tower. It's clad on the base with black granite. From the base up, green terracotta that ends in a beautiful gold top. The designs are stylized flower motifs with a little pre-Columbian or Mayan flavor. One of the things that we have to think about when we consider Art Deco is that although it's a modern style, it also has deep historic references from all of the major archaeological sites that were being discovered during the 1910s and 1920s, including Egypt, the Maya and Aztec ruins, Mesopotamia, Syria, and even classicism. Since 2006, the building has been occupied by the Hard Rock Hotel. It underwent a masterful restoration. Over my shoulder is the massive Merchandise Mart, which opened in 1930 and was designed by Chicago's second most dominant architectural design firm during the Art Deco period, named Graham Anderson Probst and White. The building was designed as a concept by the Marshall Field Company to house the largest wholesale market in the world. Originally 4 million square feet, for decades it was the largest building in the world. Unfortunately, the 1929 market crash didn't treat Marshall Field's interests very well, and the building was bought by Joseph Kennedy. The final cost was approximately $35 million, and its massive form is influenced by several historical styles, including Assyrian, Mesopotamian, pyramids, and Mayan architecture. One of the most important things about the Merchandise Mart is its site, and I think that the Marshall Field Company was really taking advantage of the confluence of the north and south branches of the Chicago River just before it hits the Great Lakes, to emphasize the strategic location of Chicago on these great transportation waterways for commerce and manufacturing. At the termination of LaSalle Street is one of Chicago's ultimate Art Deco buildings, the Chicago Board of Trade. It was designed by Halliburton Root and constructed between 1928 and 1930. Probably one of its most distinctive features is the 30-foot tall statue of the Roman goddess of grain, Ceres, on the top. The aluminum sculpture weighs around 6,000 pounds, and it's really hard to underestimate how important John Storrs was in terms of Chicago's homegrown artists. His work was appreciated internationally in terms of its streamlined forms, and some people give him credit for producing the first non-objective sculpture in America. We're in front of 35 East Wacker, which is also known as the Jewelers Building. While it's not Art Deco, it's an important Chicago landmark, and it was built between 1925 and 27 in the Art Deco period. But what's interesting to us in terms of the Fox River Valley is the clock, which was a gift from the Elgin Watch Company and features a decrepit Father Time holding an hourglass. It was originally considered one of the most accurate clocks in Chicago's as it was linked directly to the Naval Observatory. The Elgin Watch Company is one of the most significant manufacturers in the world during the Art Deco period. During this period, it's estimated that the company shipped 30 or 40 million watches all over the world, and they were high style. And indeed, they're really heavily collected today by Art Deco lovers everywhere.
I'm here to talk a little bit about Art Deco and Elgin's role in that movement. Began in the mid-1920s with a large exposition in Paris. It was so influential that the Elgin National Watch Company actually sent representatives over to Paris to see exactly what was going on. And they brought back some ideas, and in front of us are some of those products that they produced. In 1928, they came out with a Elgin Parisienne watch line. They went to Paris, contracted with 6 of the high fashion designers of the time, and asked them to design watches. In June of 1928, the Elgin Watch Company put out a 2-page ad in the Saturday Evening Post to introduce that line. Part of the advertisements were individual watches, and we have been lucky enough to obtain a few of those that are in the ads. This is the very first time that watches had enamel on them of color. Again, very new and innovative. The dials were not the normal round dial that everyone had seen, but they were very asymmetrical, which was part of the Deco movement, linear and asymmetrical. We get to a point that they had a watch called the Lady and the Tiger. And this is a large photograph of the actual watch, which is in this little display case. The watch, the Lady and the Tiger, was based on a proverb back in the 1800s on picking a lady or a tiger. And it caught on. It was a very attractive watch, very highly sought after by collectors 100 years later, basically. The cases tended to be made by independent companies who would contract out with individual watch manufacturers. So many times you would buy a movement at a jewelry store, and the jeweler would have a movement and a case. And now let's go and pair up the movement with the case that you like. These watches, these meaning the wrist watches, started getting into the cases being mailed and sent to the watch manufacturers. Their employees then would case the watches on site, and so you would buy the whole watch at the jewelry store. The Lady and the Tiger watch is rare. It's highly sought after by collectors, but we really don't know, even though it's considered part of the Parisienne line, if one of the designers was in fact one of the Paris designers that were contracted out earlier. There's a thought that it was actually designed in-house in Elgin by one of their designers. They had a whole sector in the factory that designed watch cases. Making 1 million watches a year, they had need for a lot of different styles of cases. Most of the designing was done in-house. Not only did Elgin design the watches and the cases Art Deco, they also got into the display boxes that would be in a jewelry store. This particular box is very Deco. If you can notice the word Elgin across the top, shows the linear aspect of Art Deco. One of the interesting things is that the Elgin American Ladies Compact line was not part of the Elgin National Watch Company. It was in fact part of the Illinois Watch Case Company, who worked with Elgin and other manufacturers to make watch cases. Over the course of time, they went off into ladies' cosmetic items and smoking items. And we have a few items of those here. This is a very Deco cigarette lighter, as is this. Part of the Art Deco movement was shapes. Linear was very important. Geometrical shapes, very important. Here's an example of a compact that is also shown in this catalog ad. If you look at the designs, just very geometric and very Art Deco. Elgin American put out some of the finest Art Deco pieces around, and collectors are very happy to have a few of them. If we go up to this catalog page, We're trying to see if we can get the actual pieces for the entire page. We've gotten 3 of the 9. We always are looking for the Art Deco Elgin American compacts. Art Deco continued on through the late 30s, and one of the last big events that had a lot of Art Deco in it was the New York World's Fair in 1939 and 1940. And in the middle here we do have an Elgin American compact that has the Trilon and Perisphere, which were the symbols of the New York World's Fair. In front of it is a postcard showing the Elgin Pavilion at that World's Fair. You can see the very deco look of the building. We talk about Art Deco and the symmetrics of their style, and this watch hanging here is a perfect example. The dial is triangular. It just is so far removed from what a normal wristwatch had been previous to the Art Deco movement. Elgin was doing so well and liked the Deco experience that they even went to the point of putting out mirrors, this one with Father Time at the top, and the linear aspects of the Art Deco would have been in a jewelry store, and you would have been able to just have a better angle of the watch. And then, of course, on the end we have what's known as a point of sale piece, and very Art Deco look to it. Obviously, with the colors and the heart, it was meant to be in a jewelry store sometime in February for Valentine's Day. Art Deco influenced many aspects of life, including architecture, fashion, and film. The Elgin Watch Company played a large part because of the watch movements and the watch cases they were producing. The Illinois Watch Case Company and their Elgin American counterpart. One of the nice things about the Elgin Watch Company is that they produce so many watches that there's still many of them around. The quality was there. People wouldn't put them in a drawer instead of throwing them out. And for collectors like myself, the internet has made finding these watches a lot easier than it was in the past, and we have fun doing that.
Clearly, Elgin's greatest contributions to the Art Deco movement were the millions of Art Deco-style watches, compacts, and other products produced by the Elgin National Watch Company, the Elgin Watch Case Company, and Elgin American. However, Elgin's Art Deco heritage can also be seen in its architecture. Jennifer Fritz, an Elgin architect and architectural historian, took us on a tour of some of Elgin's most significant Art Deco buildings.
Behind me is the iconic Elgin Tower, built and designed by the St. Louis Banking Company. Construction began in March of 1928 and was completed in May of 1929. At the time it was built, the building was praised for its classic simplicity with a touch of Gothic details. But today we look at the building and can see the Art Deco designs. The gray granite has bas-relief sculptures carved into it rather than applied to the exterior. And you can see this most at the entrance to the building, where there are 2 columns flank, but the columns are engaged to the wall to flatten their depth, and the acanthus leaves and the Corinthian capitals have also been flattened. It's almost as if after the stone mason carved the Corinthian capitals, he took a giant iron to his work to flatten it out. While the bank the building was built for failed just 9 months after construction was complete, the Elgin Tower continues to serve as a beacon for the Fox River Valley. I'm standing at the corner of Spring Street and Fulton Street, where behind me stands another excellent example of Art Deco commercial architecture in Elgin. This was the Salvation Army, built in 1930 and designed by Albert Falo. One of the hallmarks of Art Deco is the way the building steps back from the street, and that's a little bit more difficult to do with only a 2-story building. Falo achieved that by applying crystalline structures to the facade of the building and then flattening the facets of those crystalline structures. You can see that along the parapet of the building. The Salvation Army was housed here until 1971 when they moved to their new location on North Spring Street. Currently, the building holds the Senior Services Center. The Armory was built in 1930 as part of the Federal Works Progress Administration project. It cost just $125,000 to build, and it is Art Deco in style. Now, at first glance, you might say there's absolutely no detail or ornament on this building, but if you look at the fins on the front of the building that extend above the parapet and have different facets to them, almost like a crystal, Those are Art Deco elements. Also, just the very way that they put the name of the building over the front entrance. Illinois Armory is actually recessed into the limestone facade. The eagles that flank the entrance are also characteristic of the Art Deco style, and the diagonals in between the windows are hints of the Navajo blanket pattern styles. On the first floor, between the windows, are pilasters, which are sort of like columns that engage the walls, and they are fluted like a typical column, but again, it's very flat, which is characteristic of the Art Deco style. The Armory continues to house the Illinois National Guard. It's located at the corner of Raymond and Gifford Place. It's a nice little out-of-the-way spot if you want to check out some of Elgin's Art Deco. McGraw-Edison built the building you see behind me in 1938 to manufacture Toastmaster toasters and toaster ovens. The executive offices in the front are really the Art Deco elements of this building. Many critics of Art Deco would tell you that it's not actually a style at all, it's just blank buildings with little decoration. And if you looked at this building, you might agree with them because the facade is completely devoid of all decoration except for some carved limestone reliefs over the entrances. It's over the front entrance that you see the biggest relief. It is a carving of workers turning raw materials into goods and services for the public. And over the employee entrance on the north side of the building, you can see a carving of workers toiling day and in the night to make those goods and services. To see this example of Art Deco in Elgin, you need to head south on Route 25 just outside the city.
After visiting the site of the old Toastmaster factory, you may want to continue south to see two more Art Deco masterpieces in the Fox Valley. If you go to downtown Aurora, right on the river, you'll find one of the most heralded Art Deco theaters in the entire country. Aurora's Paramount Performing Arts Center was built in 1931 by the Paramount Publix Company just before its bankruptcy. The theater's Italianesque facade contradicts the high deco style of the magnificent and magnificently preserved interior, which has seating for over 2,000. It's a must-see. On your way back to Elgin, take a look at the Campana building at the northwest corner of Route 31 and Fabian Parkway. Built by the Campana Cosmetics Company in 1936, the building is beautifully sited to take advantage of its striking turquoise, tan and black terracotta and brick facade. The building featured forward-thinking design elements, including extensive use of fluorescent lighting and glass block, combining natural illumination with structural support. It was also among the first entirely air-conditioned factories in the United States. The Campana building has been on the National Register of Historic Places since 1979. On October 20th, 2012, the Elgin Area Historical Society invited the Chicago Art Deco Society to the museum at 360 Park Street. It was an opportunity for the two groups to get to know each other and share an important part of Elgin's rich history.
Today we're hosting the Chicago Art Deco Society. We've been working on this for many months with Jackie Vossler, who is a member of the Elgin Area Historical Society, also a member of Chicago Art Deco Society. Jackie made the connection and was the spark behind this entire project today.
Last winter, I happened to be, rather belatedly, looking through my fall of 2011 magazine from the Chicago Art Deco Society. In there was a call for action. Wanted to have some photos or some samples of Elgin watches. I knew someone who had plenty of those Art Deco Elgin watches. The Deco Society came out here and shot Jeff White's collection. When they did that, an idea went off in my mind that we needed to bring the Art Deco Society and the Elgin Area Historical Society together because we collectively had a lot of information to share.
The importance of putting together an event like this is that Chicago Art Deco Society gives us a different perspective of our own town. There were only a couple of members here who really understood what Art Deco was, so we had to do some research. We had to figure out what were the Art Deco periods of Elgin watch? How much was produced by the watch case company? Who produced it? Who were the designers? How did this all come about?
Originated in the 1880s, moved to Elgin in 1890.
Well, we feel it's a win-win when we have the opportunity to collaborate with other groups. This was a chance for us not only to see an area that many of us weren't really familiar with, but also to learn more about the industrial commercial applications of Art Deco design. We are promoting our mission when through these collaborative events we can raise the consciousness of people in other groups about the value of what they have. You know, sometimes what you have in your own backyard you don't fully appreciate. So we feel that it's been a very successful collaboration when we've heard from the staff at the Elgin Area Historical Society how this has raised their consciousness about appreciating the value of what they have right here in Elgin.
Hey, that was a pretty interesting program. I want to thank our experts from the Chicago Art Deco Society and our local experts that helped bring this information to you. I bet you that's a side of Elgin history you were not really aware of. So when you get a chance, come on down to the Elgin History Museum. Take a look at some of the exhibits, learn a little bit more about Elgin's past, and enjoy some of our examples of Art Deco that we have on display at the museum.
As a non-for-profit organization, the Elgin Area Historical Society relies on financial support from the community. Your tax-deductible donation is needed to operate the museum and fund our community programming, so please give if you can. The Historical Society also relies on volunteers from the community.
As a nonprofit organization in Elgin, we're always looking for volunteers. There's many ways you can get involved. You can be a docent, and you can volunteer 1 or 2 days a week, 1 or 2 days a month. Maybe you just like to paint or fix up old houses and we could use your building skills. Maybe you have a collection that you would like to show at the museum. We've had many members do that in the past where they bring in their private collection and get that story out to the public, and this would be a great way to present something like that. So there's many, many different ways that we can incorporate your skills. The Elgin Area Historical Society Museum is at 360 Park. We're right on the grounds of the Academy. We are the building under the cupola.
There are other ways you can support the museum. Simply stop by and look around. Admission is only $3 for adults and $1 for kids. While you're here, do a little shopping at the store. We have trinkets, photos, books, videos, and other Elgin collectibles. The museum also offers room rentals for meetings and events. If you're looking to license or own historical photos of Elgin or photos from our Courier News archive, you can purchase these for your business or private use. And if you're in need of research services, our experienced staff can help you access our extensive archive of Elgin-specific historical documents. For more information, visit elginhistory.org or stop by the museum on Park Street and say hi. Thank you for your support.